I would say don't follow the expected path. And I did. I went from high school where I got good grades, and I went to college, which I'm very glad that I went to college and very thankful that I was able to do that. Got good grades, went to law school, got good grades, just kind of the next logical step without ever really thinking, does this fit me at all? Being a lawyer does not fit me at all. And I should have realized that at the time, but I just was kind of propelling myself forward to what seemed like the next thing I was supposed to do. And you don't have to do that. And now I'm someone with a law degree. I'm working at a job that doesn't require any of that. And I'm way happier. And I'm not making a ton of money. I'm making less than I was, but I'm making enough. I'm paying my bills. I'm supporting myself. So you just know that there's a lot of options out there.
Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, avid book reader, and developing salsa dancer. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who've gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 46 of the Amani Experience Podcast. For this episode, we have Liz Zeigler, who is a mobile dog groomer. Some of my favorite things about this episode is, first, Liz is a dog lover, as am I, so that's just cool. Second, she's a really high-achieving lawyer. She did some great things, and she still decided to change her career and her life completely. I respect that. And then third, I really enjoyed hearing about her perspective on competition. I thought it was refreshing and very forward-thinking. I think you will appreciate it as well. If you want to reach me, feel free to email me, podcast@amaniexperience.com. I appreciate the love. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get right to the show. Our guest today's love of dogs led her to the field of dog grooming after 8 years working as an attorney in corporate litigation. She was searching for a more soul-satisfying path that would allow her to spend her days with dogs and the people who love them. She started Must Love Dogs after receiving her training and certification through a hands-on grooming school and working for another local company in their mobile grooming division. Must Love Dogs supports animal rescue efforts. Our guest is a regular volunteer with LA Animal Services and is proud to be the mommy of rescue dogs and cats. I would like to welcome Liz Zeigler to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are excited to have you. As a dog lover myself, it's going to be an exciting conversation, so thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
So right now we're in one of our little mobile studios in Burbank, California. Now, where did you grow up?
I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, a suburb of Oakland, San Francisco called Pleasanton.
Yes.
Which at the time when I was there was kind of a small suburb, but now it's grown to be pretty big.
Yes. And how long have you been in Los Angeles?
I moved down here in 1996 to attend UCLA.
Right. So you're a Bruin, graduate of
Yes.
UCLA for both undergrad and law school, correct?
Correct.
And what motivated you to decide to go to law school after undergrad?
Well, I have to admit, at the time, I was in my mid-20s. I had been working for a small nonprofit organization that was wonderful. It was a great experience, and I worked there a little bit during college, and then they hired me after I graduated. And it was just really great, but working for a nonprofit has one major downside, which is if you ever want to do anything like buy a home, travel, do anything that costs money, you can't really do it. So I was trying to think, well, what is my next step going to be in my professional life? And I kind of decided, spur of the moment, I'm going to take the LSAT, which is the law school entrance exam. And I'll just kind of see what happens. I really did not put that much thought into it, I have to admit. And I said, well, I'll sign up for the test, I'll just see. So I signed up for the test, I took it, I ended up doing okay. So I said, okay, well, I'll just apply to some schools. I'll see what happens. Still not really thinking about what it actually means to go to law school and be an attorney. So I applied to a bunch of schools, and I ended up getting accepted to one, which was Tulane in New Orleans.
Yes, yes.
Quit my job, packed up, moved to New Orleans.
So then you went from Tulane, you were there for like a year and a half?
I did my first year there.
So first year, then you moved back to LA or back to the West Coast and went to UCLA.
Yeah, I applied for a transfer after my first year. I was so homesick.
Oh.
And got pretty good grades, so I thought, well, maybe that UCLA didn't take me the first time around, but now that I've shown that, okay, I can do law school, I applied for the transfer and I got it, and I was thrilled, and I moved back.
What do you compare the difference between living in New Orleans to living in Los Angeles?
It's very different. New Orleans is great. It is a great city. It's a lot of fun. It's very unique. It's unlike any other city in the U.S. for sure. But when I went there, I did not know a single person. And I really loved living in LA, and I was sad to leave. So I was really thrilled when I got the transfer.
You came back. So you finished law school in May of 2006, and then you started doing contract and legal work from 2007 to almost 2014, 2015.
Yep.
And it's not that you weren't, like, you were a very high achiever in all of your jobs. You were, like, chosen as a final level review team in one spot. You were a team lead in another firm. So you were doing extremely well in the legal field. Walk us through what made you decide to say, you know what, no more law. I need to go a different direction. And tell us how you found mobile dog grooming.
Well, my time working as a lawyer was not a happy time. It was 8 years. My first job out of law school, you know, I did all the interviews, all the on-campus interviews that all the law students do, and got the big offer that all the law school students want for the big firm, making top dollar. Got the big offer, and started there and just really knew pretty much right away, oh, this is not gonna work. This is not a fit for me. Like, pretty much, if I had made a list of every personality trait that is needed to succeed at a big law firm, I had none of them. Like, you have to be really, you just need a certain level of confidence. Even if you're not quite sure what you're doing, you have to just kind of act as if. And I'm not like that. Like, I feel like I really need to be on top of everything, or else I feel totally unprepared and like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. You have to be able to withstand a huge amount of pressure and stress. And I just couldn't, I didn't last there very long. One day, actually, the whole time I was there, pretty much every morning when I would commute to work on the train, I would bring a book, because I would sit on the train and cover my face and cry.
Oh, wow.
On the train every morning. And one morning I got to the office and I just couldn't stop. And I went into my office and closed the door, couldn't stop crying, walked out of the office, went behind the building, tried to find anywhere where no one could see me, anywhere I could have some privacy, and just curled up in a ball on the ground in my nice work clothes.
Wow.
And like had a breakdown, and went home, quote unquote, sick that day. And the next day came in and gave my notice, and never regretted that for 1 second. Like, I just knew this is not a good place for me. So from there, I searched around a little bit, applied for some different jobs, and ended up in this contract legal world, which is supposedly temp work. But some of the projects last 2 years, 3 years, so you kind of get sucked in. It's kind of legal grunt work. It's all behind the scenes work in the litigation field. It's not super exciting. You know, it's just reading documents all day long, reading and categorizing documents all day long. I worked on some projects where we worked 7 hours a day, 12 hours a day for months on end. I went many months where I realized I have not been outside during the daytime in weeks.
Okay, wow.
So it just hit a point of burnout, basically. And I spent the last few years I was working as a lawyer really thinking, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I'm making a good living. I'm making some amazing friends. Some of my best friends still are people I met doing that work. But after 8 years of it, it was definitely enough. So I spent a long time just thinking, what am I going to do though? Am I crazy to walk away from this profession where I've gotten this degree? I'm still paying law school loans, passed the bar exam. What else could I possibly do? So, one day after just many months of turmoil and feeling like I was living in limbo, gave notice at my last job. And took about a month to just totally decompress and do like nothing. And then I went and checked out a local dog grooming school.
Okay.
And that's where it began.
That's where it began. So if we unpack that story, great story, by the way. Thank you for sharing. What initially drew you to mobile dog grooming?
I mean, the main thing, of course, is you're around dogs all day. Like, what could be better than that? I used to be around lawyers all day. Now I'm around dogs all day. So that is a trade-off I'm very happy with. And I really knew whatever I do next, I want it to be around animals. So people were always saying, well, why don't you go get and work for a nonprofit animal organization as an attorney? That's kind of what most people thought, well, that makes sense for your next step. But I knew I didn't want to do that. Like, I knew those lawyers are in court every day. I knew there's no way. I am not a courtroom attorney. I'm not built for that at all. I know that. And I knew I really wanted to be with the animals, like with them around me all day, every day. So I went and checked out this school, and I enrolled, and I was there for about 6 months, and
Okay.
it's hands-on.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, I learned pretty quick, like, oh, this is hard. But you gradually get better. And when I finished the course there, I actually finished the course and then stayed on longer because they just kind of let me stay because I just didn't feel yet like I was ready. And then they hired me to work in their mobile.
Okay.
Which was an amazing experience because it let me know, okay, I can do this. Like, it was a great way for me to realize I am ready. I can do this. I worked for them for a few months and decided, oh, I'm going out on my own. I'm doing this myself, and bought my truck.
Yes. And here we are almost, 3 years to the date later?
Yeah, in July it will be 3 years.
Yes, yes. How did you summon the courage to not once but twice leave some very, say, prestigious law jobs and decide to kind of follow your heart?
It was really hard, and it took leaving the big firm job, the first one. That was kind of a no-brainer because that was like, this can't continue. I'm so miserable. I just can't live like this. But leaving the other legal work that I was doing was tougher because I could do it, but I was not happy doing it at all. I felt very trapped. It was a combination of work that was incredibly boring, but incredibly stressful. That's not a great combination. You're
Agreed.
not getting a lot out of that. It took me months and months of I made lists, I made budgets, like, okay, realistically, how much do I spend a month? How much do I need to make? I just wrote pros and con lists for months and finally pulled the trigger. And I'm so glad that I did.
Yes, it's obvious. So congrats on that. If we look at yourself now, Liz, here in May, June 2018, how would you summarize yourself in 30 seconds?
I would say I am a recovering, or actually now I'd say recovered attorney. I struck out on my own to try to find a better life, and I found it, and I am proof that there's life after law.
Life after law, love it. Mm-hmm. What did your friends and family say once you told them that you were going to leave the legal profession and you're going to work in the mobile dog grooming space?
I had a lot of friends who were really, really supportive because they were around me and saw that I was not happy. I had a few friends who were like, well, you're going to try that for a while. Okay, try that for a while, but you're going to come back. I heard that a lot. The most difficult ones to tell were my parents.
Yes.
I actually didn't tell them until I was midway through dog grooming school that I was even at dog grooming school. I really didn't know how they were going to take it. I know that they want me to be happy, and I know that they knew how unhappy I was because they received many sobbing phone calls from me over the years. But their daughter was a lawyer. Like, parents like saying
yes,
their
they
daughter's
do.
a lawyer. And but once I told them, they were happy for me, and now they're ecstatic. I think that they brag to their friends now, our daughter's the mobile dog groomer.
Cool.
She has her own business.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience when I left, a very prestigious corporate job with Marriott to become a DJ. And people are like, "You're doing what?" "You'll be back in a couple of years." So 6 years later, here we are.
Yes, excellent.
In your opinion, what is important for creative professionals such as yourself, myself, to succeed in today's business environment?
I would say it's different because we don't have a boss, like in the traditional sense, where there's someone telling you all the time what to do, looking over your shoulder. But in a way, all of our clients are our bosses, so we have hundreds of bosses.
Yes, we do.
And you really have to remember that they have to be happy with your work. Like, as much as I feel like I'm on my own, I'm work by myself, it's just me and the dogs during the appointments, I'm still answerable to every single client. You have to be there when you say you're going to be there, be reliable, and just be polite. Like that, I am amazed sometimes when clients tell me, this last person that I hired did this and said this, and I can't believe some of the stories that they have. So you can really set yourself apart just by being polite and professional.
Yeah, so kind of like the simple things,
Yeah.
in business. When did you realize, after you left the law field maybe 4 years ago, that, wow, this mobile dog grooming business, my business is actually doing well, and this is it? Like, I'm in, all in, both feet. When was that sort of turning point so far?
It took months. Like, the first few months after I bought my truck were really hard because I bought a truck that I could afford. So it was old and had a ton of mechanical problems. Like, those first few months were so stressful because no money was coming in and so much money was going out fixing this phantom problem that no one could figure out what the problem was. So I would say by the time I had a month where I could sit down at the end of the month and say, okay, I spent this much on the business, I brought in this much, I brought in more than I spent.
Yeah.
Like, that took months to get there. And then a little past that, I had a month where at the end of the month I could sit down and say, not only did I recoup all my business expenses, but I paid my mortgage, I paid everything on what I made doing my dog grooming. And now it's to the point where that happens every month, which is what you hope for.
Yes.
And then finally I got to a point where I could say no to potential clients.
Yes.
That was big because at first you will take anything. I mean, those first few months I was doing 2 or 3 appointments a week. So someone would call, I would be there. Like, I would drop other plans that I had. I would drive really far. If they balked on the price, I would lower the price. Like, I would do anything. Now I'm at a point where I can be pretty picky with which new clients I take, and that is really nice feeling.
Great. And from starting with maybe 2 to 3 clients a week, how many clients a week do you average now?
It really varies. Like, it varies with the weather. The weather makes a big difference. I'm super busy like around Christmas time. So it's a little up and down. I would say the average is 20 something.
Wow.
Yeah. And most of them are returning clients.
Right.
So I might add a new dog or 2 each week. But most of them are regulars who I see every 4th Tuesday at this time, every Monday at this time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great.
What did you do to kind of curb or really stick to your worth when people started to maybe ask you about price? Initially, you might have lowered your price, but now you can stay firm. How did you develop that muscle? Because that's very challenging for entrepreneurs to stick to their prices. So what have you done to really stick to your prices?
The best advice that I was given, which I ignored when I first started my business by other mobile groomers who had successful businesses, was do not undercharge. Do not do it. They may walk, it's okay. And I didn't do that at first. I wanted to take everyone who came my way. And it is hard to develop that muscle of saying, I charge this much. It might be more than you can find elsewhere, but this is what I charge. And it's not a garage sale. It's not up for negotiation. This is the price. Because it is hard as you go further on. Now I have some clients who are paying a lower price, and it's harder to then later raise it. It's better to just start out with the fair price at the beginning.
True.
That's one of the toughest things.
Agree. We talk about it all the time, pricing, but you're to a point now where you can stay strong, so congrats on that, because it's not easy to get there. Why did you decide the mobile grooming space instead of maybe a brick and mortar store or kind of your own, the brick and mortar store?
Well, I did my training in a shop, and it's just the environment is completely different. And shops are great. There's great groomers at shops. There's beautiful shops. But the model is bring in a bunch of dogs, preferably in the morning, have them all kind of lined up, and then the groomers just take one throughout the day. And they give one a bath, and then that dog goes in a cage dryer and waits. And then they take another dog and put it, it's just kind of a little bit of an assembly line. Mobile is you go there, you go to the person's house, you get one dog, bring them in the truck, do the whole appointment start to finish, bring the dog back, drive off to your next appointment. So the environment is much less stressful because it's not as loud, there's not kind of people walking in and out, dogs going in and out. It's really calm. Actually, it's really like my happy place is my truck when I'm with the dog because it's just me and them. I turn on music or I listen to a podcast or I talk to the dog like incessantly. It's a really nice calm, and it's calm for the dog because they're just sitting looking out the window looking at their house. So they're not stressed out. So I knew right away, I knew that I wanted to do mobile. And when I was working for someone else, even though I was very thankful for the opportunity that they gave me to do that, I knew I wanted to do it and be my own boss because I wanted the control of, I want to say which dogs, where I go, what my schedule is, which obviously you can't do when you're working for someone else.
Right. From when you began your own mobile grooming studio, what has been maybe the top 2 or 3 lessons you've learned in your experience?
I would say trust your gut. And I'm very fortunate, I have not had many appointments go bad where I've not been happy with the final result or where I couldn't complete the groom because of behavior of the dog or whatever. There have been very few like that, but there have been some. And with most of them, there's a red flag when you're booking, and sometimes I ignored them because I wanted to book it. And now I kind of know better. Like if someone calls and says, I've been to 10 different groomers and they're all horrible.
Red flag.
Red flag. And people do that. And
yes.
You have to think, well, maybe the common denominator
it's
here.
You.
Yeah. So I think just trusting when something doesn't sound like something you want to take on, just don't take it. Pass it along.
Right.
And I think just trusting yourself. That was a really hard one for me. I'm not a super confident, I can do anything type person. I am not. I'm like a stress case. I have anxiety. I have all of it.
You're normal.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's true. Everyone does. But I
Yeah.
forget what I said.
It's okay. I've read many of your clients, and they have commented on how you can take even the most anxious dog, frenetic dog, and make them very calm. How do you do that, and how did you acquire that skill?
And this goes back to what I was just saying when I forgot what I was just saying. Trust yourself. The new dog will present itself and will be on your grooming table, and you might have a second where you're like, I'm not sure how to get from this to where the client wants. And you just have to do it. Like, you just start in and you just do it. And that is something you have to learn. Like, you have to learn, no, I know now, I've done it enough times that I can do it. I just have to go little by little and I will get there. You can't lose your cool. And if the dog is anxious and the dog is acting up, which sometimes they are, sometimes it's very challenging, you have to stay super calm. You just have to. And sometimes they will calm down and they'll actually start to relax, which is the greatest feeling when you see a nervous dog and you put them in the bath and you start like giving them their facial and you can see them relaxing. That's wonderful. And sometimes they don't and they stay nervous, but they learn that they can do it and I learn I can do it. But yeah, you just have to stay calm and just do it.
Right. Besides repetition, kind of working with dogs over and over again, what else have you done to increase your confidence, just in your business and personally?
The repetition is definitely the key thing. Just knowing, okay, I've done this now hundreds of times, so I know I can do it. But I've taken, there's like grooming seminars you can go to. There's a ton of online resources. So if I book, like the other day I booked a shave down on a certain kind of dog, and I hadn't really done a lot of shave downs on that kind of coat. So I go online and I watch YouTube videos in advance. So I know when I get there I have a plan, rather than just staring at the dog going, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So that just feeling like you know your game plan increases your confidence. Yeah, going to the grooming seminars, going to grooming expos where you learn all the different new products and stuff.
Yeah. It sounds like a common theme is just continuing to invest in yourself. So that's good.
Yeah.
Now, this question I usually ask people, like, why do you love what you do? So please share with us why you love what you do, but also tell us, why do you love dogs so much?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love what I do. When I was working as a lawyer and daydreaming endlessly, staring out the window, if I had made a list of what do I want in my next career, even though I didn't know exactly what the job would be, this would be it. Like, it would meet all the requirements. Like, I'm not sitting at a desk all day, which I've done that. I've put in that time. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm out and about. Like, I'm out. When it's sunny, I'm out driving and, getting to enjoy the town and seeing the city. I have flexibility. Like,
yes.
That's a huge one, because when you're working as a lawyer, you are in that desk. Like, you're there all day, every day, and you leave when they tell you to leave. And now I'm in charge of my schedule. I mean, I'm responsible to my clients, so if I have an appointment, I have to be there. But if I plan in advance, I can take time off, or I can work a short day, or, I'm in charge of that. And the best thing, of course, is the dogs. And now that I've been in business for a while, I have some dogs that I've seen now for 3 years, and they're like my buddies. They really are. Like, there's some dogs I really look forward to seeing. So it's my dream job.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
Did you grow up with dogs?
No, I grew up with cats.
So that's so fascinating. You didn't grow up with dogs, but now you just have come to love them and, be very skilled at working with them. That's fascinating.
Yeah, we always had a lot of cats. I always loved animals, but I just hadn't been around dogs when I was a kid all that much. And when we bought our house down here, my boyfriend and I, we thought, well, now we have a yard, we could get a dog.
Right.
And a friend of ours just sent around a picture of this dog that was in a shelter, in the Lancaster shelter, and was about to be put down. And we were like, this looks like a cute dog.
Let's go for it.
And my boyfriend was like, this is just temporary, though, because this dog is about to be put down, so we'll be like a foster. So, of course, we know how that ends. But, yeah, we went up and got him. As we were walking with him from the shelter to the car, my boyfriend says, we can keep him if we want to, right? It
Yes.
took like 5 minutes. And he was so amazing. And we still have him.
Good.
Our dog, Mo.
Mo, yes. His picture's on your website,
Yes.
correct? Yes.
Our Chow. And without Mo, none of this would have happened. So I tell Mo every day, thank you so much for starting this, because he's so perfect.
Right.
And because of him, then we got other dogs that we've had. But yeah, Mo started it.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, what is something that scares you?
I have a huge fear, and this is pretty depressing.
It's okay. We'll work through it.
I have a huge fear of being elderly and like homeless.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
that is something, when I was thinking about leaving law, was something that I kept envisioning, like, I'm going to give up this paycheck. I'm never going to get a good job again. I'm not going to have any savings. And I'm going to be eventually down the road, I'm going to blow through everything I saved, and I'll have nothing, and I'll be like elderly and destitute. And I'm an only child. I don't have children. My boyfriend is older than me. So realistically, I think there probably will be a time. I mean, no one knows what's going to happen, but there may be a time where I'm on my own when I'm older, and that's like a huge fear of mine. So I'm really careful with saving.
Good.
Yeah.
And what else do you do to work through that fear? Because you could be older, but have a bunch of friends that you've acquired through your business and through people you've met. So how do you work through that fear so it doesn't kind of paralyze you?
Yeah, it did paralyze me for a long time. Just planning and just saving. Every month, at the end of the month, I look at what I've made, what I've spent, and I take what's left and I put some like in all these different savings accounts. Like, this is savings for business, this is savings for me. I have it all very organized.
Good.
And just that, and it's not like tons of money, but just that act makes me feel better.
Right.
So
Going from the legal profession to mobile dog grooming, like the revenue you'll get is probably a little less in the beginning. How are you still able to be happy and kind of stress-free, knowing that the money you get initially might not be as much as you're used to earning?
you mean when you first start the
Yes.
business?
Yeah.
It's those first few months are touch and go for sure. And there were definitely days where I thought I've made a huge mistake. And I have blown all this money because I just bought the truck. I just paid for it out of my savings. And I thought I've just wasted all this money. I was fortunate that I had savings.
Yes.
From when I was working in my previous career. So I know it's one thing to say, oh, follow your dream, follow your bliss, do what you want, but it's not realistic all the time for everyone. So I know I was very fortunate that I had this cushion. But it is, even with that, it's stressful because money's going out and it's not coming in, and you have to just keep going. Like, you really do. You have to just know that it's going to take. And I'd had a couple people say it'll probably take 1 to 2 years before you feel financially comfortable. And it helped me hearing that, because I knew, okay, I'm 6 months in, I'm kind of where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm not supposed to be there yet. So it just takes time.
Yes, you just got to keep going. I love that. Now, the mobile dog grooming space is very crowded. What do you do to rise above all the noise and distinguish yourself from the competition?
There are a ton of groomers around, mobile and shop, but the good thing is there's also a ton of dogs. There's a lot of dogs. There's no dog shortage.
This is true.
So in this field, it's nice because I don't really see other mobile groomers as competitors. I mean, they are, but they're really colleagues, and we help each other. Like, when I first started and first bought my truck, I looked up a bunch of really established mobile companies on Facebook, and I sent them messages and just said, I'm new. I know you have this really strong business. If you ever have spillover, people you can't service, if you could send them to me, that would be great. And people did it. Like,
wow.
They totally did it.
Nice.
So then I was able to do that for people who started after me. So it's a nice working relationship that we have with each other. But in terms of kind of setting yourself apart, again, it's just customer service. Like, I mean, there are some groomers who their grooms are amazing. They're works of art. They're show quality. They do things that I know that I can't do. Just
Right.
the level of training and just the artistry that they're able to produce is astounding. But so you can get so far just by being reliable,
Yes.
and polite, and making sure they can see that I love their dog. I love them all. And this is definitely not a job for someone who doesn't truly want to be around dogs all day.
True. I admire and I respect your perspective on competition. That's pretty different. Most people, kind of have blinders on. How did you acquire this perspective?
Really just how nice the people I met were when I entered the space. Just very supportive, with referrals and with advice. It's just a really nice community. And now I see there's a lot of mobiles who I see around. We see each other driving around all the time, and you wave, and sometimes they don't wave back. So not everyone might see it the same way. But most people are really cool, and there are so many dogs, and there's room for all of us. And the ones who aren't doing a good job and don't really love it and aren't ready to stick it out, they're not going to last.
Right.
Because this is not a job that you just kind of do it, kind of halfway. You really can't. You have to be really reliable and on the ball. So some will fade away, and then
Right.
new ones will come, and that's kind of the nature of the business.
Good. I love your perspective. Thanks for sharing. How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
Oh my goodness, a favorite failure. I can't necessarily think of one specifically that's gone really bad, fortunately.
Yes, fortunately.
But really, anything that's been a challenge, you learn from it because you get through it, and then you can look back and say, okay, that was really, really tough. It didn't turn out exactly how I wanted, but now I see I can tough that out. Actually, there's one thing that just popped into my head, though.
Please share.
Because as a small service-oriented business, Yelp is or any online reviews are, and I've been very fortunate. My reviews are good, but I had one person who went on my Yelp. They were not a customer. They were upset because I was grooming a neighbor's dog, and the neighbor's dog was barking, because dogs bark.
Really?
It's something that happens with dogs sometimes. And they took it out. It was disturbing them. And they took it out on my Yelp page, and it was really nasty. Really, really, really oh my gosh, I can't believe what these people just wrote on my Yelp page.
Right.
That's important for small business owners.
It is.
And I reported it to Yelp right away. This is not a customer. You're not supposed to just review if you're not a customer. So they did end up taking it down. But I also went to my support group, my other mobile groomers, and told them what happened. And they also went on to Yelp and complained about the review as well.
Nice.
And that was really okay, these people have my back. They get it. They know that this was not a fair thing that happened. So it ended up working out okay. But for that day or so that review was up was devastating.
That's a good strategy, though, going to your support group. That was smart. I've never really met someone yet who's mentioned that strategy in terms of Yelp, because Yelp can be a very challenging beast in itself. So we appreciate your advice. Many listeners will use that as well, so thank you for sharing that. Kind of on a similar vein, as you become more successful, we acquire more critics, more haters, we like to call them. How do you handle your critics?
You have to kind of take it in stride. I've been fortunate that I haven't gotten, not that everyone's like thought everything I did was perfect by any stretch, but I haven't had any, like I said, no Yelp review saying this result was awful or anything like that. But you just, if you really do your best all the time, don't cut corners, don't kind of halfway it and, oh, I can kind of not try so hard with this and they won't notice. If you know you don't ever do any of that and someone still has an issue with something, what can you do? Like, you've done your best. And if someone says something critical, you can't, as a business owner and someone who's facing the public, you can't lose your cool.
Right.
Like, you can't lash back at all.
I think you might have touched on this before, but I'll ask you anyways. Tell us about the darkest time in your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
It was definitely at the firm.
The first firm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, crying on the way to work every day, which is not uncommon for people working in that environment, which is shocking that that's just like normal. Like, oh, everyone in this office cried today.
That's not normal.
And when I caved my notice and felt so good afterwards, like I went back and sat at my desk, like big smile on my face. Slowly, like this trickle of other attorneys start coming in my office saying, I wish I had left early on like you are now, because now I'm like entrenched and now it's harder to extract myself and I wish I'd gone and done something else. Like, I had multiple people come in and say that to me. And I also had someone come in and say, yeah, us more senior attorneys kind of had a little bet about which of you would be the first.
Oh, jeez.
That's the kind of
Well, you're like, I'm happy I helped you win the bet.
It's me.
I'll be seeing you later. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they're lost, and you're, you know, on to bigger and better things. So I admire your courage.
Thank you. Yes, definitely better things. Definitely.
Who was the most influential person for you growing up?
Probably what most people say, my parents.
Okay.
My parents, for sure. They both worked very steadily. So I saw them, the work ethic, like every day you get up, you go to work. That's what you do. That is your future. Just seeing that stability. And also I'm fortunate my parents are still together. They've been married a really long time. And seeing that stability also in their personal life just made me want that. I don't want craziness. I don't want drama. I don't want a lot of excitement. I just want like steady, nice, comfortable, and that's what I've been working for.
I appreciate that. Now, when you were 21 years old, you were here in LA at UCLA, correct?
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to 21-year-old Liz over to Brentwood, and we're going to talk to her. What advice would you give 21-year-old Liz?
I would say don't follow the expected path. And I did. I went from high school where I got good grades, and I went to college, which I'm very glad that I went to college and very thankful that I was able to do that. Got good grades, went to law school, got good grades, just kind of like the next logical step, without ever really thinking, does this fit me at all? Being a lawyer does not fit me at all. And I should have realized that at the time, but I just was kind of propelling myself forward to what seemed like the next thing I was supposed to do. And you don't have to do that. And now I'm someone with a law degree. I'm working at a job that doesn't require any of that. And I'm way happier. And I'm not making a ton of money. I'm making less than I was, but I'm making enough. I'm paying my bills. I'm supporting myself. So you don't have, you just know that there's a lot of options out there.
Very well said. What is the one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
Just trust yourself. I really did not for a long time. I really thought for a long time, if anything popped up that was any adversity at all, that I would crumble. And it took me getting through some tough patches, you know, in the business, when my truck was not starting. I mean, for the first few months, like, I would turn the key and it would be like 50-50. It would start. That's not good. Wow. You're like parking in people's driveways. Yes. You know, and that just going through enough times of, it was really hard. I didn't know what to do, but I just kept going. You see yourself do that enough, and the next obstacle pops up, you're not as scared of it anymore.
True.
It takes a long time to learn that.
It does. Do you still have the same truck that you started with?
Yes.
Oh, good. So we're still going strong. Lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
Finally, the phantom problem that, like, no one could figure out got figured out.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we replaced all these parts trying to diagnose that problem. So now it has all these new parts. So
there you
it's
go.
great.
We're going to keep going 5 more years.
That would be wonderful.
How have you been able to trust yourself more as you've gotten more mature in your business?
Just my confidence is much higher. You know, when I first started and there's so few clients, and at the beginning they're all new clients too. So you would book someone, you would get there, you'd have no idea what you're walking into. Now they're mostly repeat clients. And when a new one comes along, I'm not feeling stressed about it anymore. Whereas before, I would really worry about it. Like, I would stress out the day before, like, oh my gosh, tomorrow I have a new dog and I really want to do a good job and I want the people to like me. And now I know that I can do it, or if I feel like I can't do it, I know how to handle it, at least, you know, over time.
Yes. Great. Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence? For example, my sentence is, I love to help people unlock their creativity by teaching them how to DJ. What is your sentence?
That's good.
Thank you.
I'm Liz, and I love making your best friend look and feel their best.
Well done. I love it.
Thank you.
What is one new habit you have added to your daily routine in the past year or so that has been most beneficial?
Record keeping, which is not super exciting, but when I book an appointment, I write it down. Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I get my calendar, I write it down in an actual calendar that's a book, not my phone or my computer, but I get my book and write it down because I will forget.
Right.
And then at the end of an appointment, when I return the dog, clean the truck, and then I get my client card out and write all my notes. Because then next time I go see the dog, I can look and I have all the record of shampoo I used, the length I used on the clippers, any behavioral issues, it's all written down. Because again, if I don't, at the time you think, oh, this was so crazy, I know I'll remember. Right. But you will not remember.
I agree. Cool. We are very, very active and voracious readers on the Amani Experience podcast. Is there 1, 2, or 3 books that you think everyone should stop what they're doing and read them right now?
Yes. And I am a big reader. I am a regular visitor to the library. And it's actually really funny because at my local library, there's another Zeigler, because mine's under Elizabeth Zeigler. Her name might be like Emily or something, but we go in and we all always both have books on hold, and they like give us each other's books. And sometimes we have like the same books. So one day I hope to meet this other Zeigler who reads all the same books I read.
We'll put it out there for her.
But my favorite books of all time, 2 novels, are Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, just about what it means to be human. And the other one that I've read multiple times, although not for a while, is Lady's Paradise by Emile Zola.
Okay.
Just about the first big department store and what it meant that now everyone is buying like the same mass-produced stuff, whereas before people were like making their own stuff.
True. And
the store like kind of becomes like a living creature that, you know, takes over everyone's lives. And then a third one that's nonfiction, Shrill by Lindy West.
Okay.
Yeah, I read that at the end of 2016, and it was just what I needed to read at that time.
Good.
So I love all those 3 books.
Nice. And I understand you also love podcasts. What are some of your favorite podcasts to listen to?
Oh, I listen to a lot of the NPR podcasts, Fresh Air, This American Life. I listen to some of the comedy interview ones because I listen while I'm working, so I need something that I can kind of like zone in and out of, because I try to listen to the like story ones,
right,
or like historical stuff, but then I realized like, well, I couldn't hear that because the tub was on, or so I can't follow along with those so well. But I'm big on podcasts.
Good. Let's see here. As you look back over your short life so far, there are a couple defining moments that we can point to that really kind of made an impact on our life. So if you're going to look back, we're like standing on the cliff looking back over your life so far. What are some defining moments for you that kind of come to mind initially?
A lot of them we've talked about, of leaving those jobs. In my personal life, definitely about 14 years ago, sitting on a bar stool at my favorite bar in town, I met my boyfriend.
Cool.
I knew if I sat on that stool long enough. But it's funny because my parents met at a bar, and then my boyfriend and I met at a bar. I guess now, this was a while ago. Now it's like online, but this was, we're still meeting at bars.
Yes, like the more natural ways.
And also, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do some traveling, and all of those trips, they all change you.
Yes. Any places you visited that really stand out?
We spent a couple weeks in Thailand a few years ago. Vietnam and Cambodia we went to, and our next big trip is to India and Sri Lanka.
Wow.
So
good.
Looking forward to that.
Very exciting. Tell people how they can find you online and find out about your business.
I have a website, mustlovedogsmobilegrooming.com, which is long. And I'm on Facebook under that same name.
Good.
And on Instagram, I think it's just under Must Love Dogs Mobile.
Good. And where do you spend most of your time in the social media space?
Probably now Instagram.
Yes.
I used to have a personal Facebook page, and I had to let that go.
Right. Yes.
That was too stressful. So now it's pretty much limited to stuff related to posting for my business.
Fantastic. So before I ask you the final question, I just want to thank you for being a guest. I find your story very inspiring, just with your journey from the legal field at a big firm doing the contract work and making the courageous decision to leave and start your own mobile dog grooming service. I find that just quite inspiring. I love dogs, so what you do is close to my heart, and I just really wish you continued success. I love your business model, and for you to be able to spend time around dogs all day, every day, and love it just warms my heart. So thank you. Keep it going. We loved having you as a guest, and we let our guests leave our show by giving any last-minute words of wisdom or advice. So I'll say thank you again, and then what last-minute words of wisdom or advice do you have for us?
Just trust yourself, and in the face of adversity or a challenge, just keep going. You can do it.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on, and share this podcast with anyone who you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon on our next episode.